there's something that I'd like you just to be indulge me, because a lot of us, the idea of a history of millions of years is not something that most of us have been taught,
Oh,
right? And so
yeah,
when you talk about 10 million years ago, or I don't know how many million years ago it was, but 10 million years ago, the Pleiadians dropped off their criminals or their unwanted ones, and then, and then a lot of story has evolved since then. I
yeah,
mean, in people's mind, when they hear people in the UFO movement say, yeah, the Pleiadians did a mistake and now they're trying to fix it, that might have been 10 million years ago, right? That
right.
something might have happened. So I think that for a lot of people, the history of the planet, we still have a lot to learn. Like,
Oh gosh.
it's a very big and long history. And when
Yeah,
I hear a lot of different people talking about, yeah, the president, the previous president T, had made a deal with these Pleiadians, and then this with this, and it always seems like they're either good or bad. But the idea is that we have a long history here, and they could be either good or bad. The
that's true.
Pleiadians. Okay,
Yeah,
so I just wanted to bring that, because for you it might be obvious, but for many people it's like the Pleiadians are an old race. They've been around for a long time. Yeah.
very long. Yeah, very, very long time. Okay, we're talking millions of years. And that is not how we think here. We're just now getting past the Catholic Church teaching that the earth was created in 4,300 and whatever it was, at 1 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. I'm like, oh my God. Um, you know, excuse me for laughing, but that is just so, it's I don't know. I can't even say how ignorant that is. It's beyond my ability to get my mind around. But I still have students that say or that believe that we were all cavemen, and we came out of the caves, and civilization is only a few thousand years old. And and I and I often think, well, if you were Chinese, their history goes back 35,000 years. What about them? They're teaching their students a whole different history. We have archaeological stuff that goes back millions of years. Um, I have, for my own self, I have a combination of some actual experience here that I remember. Some is stuff that I was taught before I came here this time, and some is stuff that I've learned since I got here. And when you put it all together, it's like, oh, wow, these people have no idea what their history is, and how rich it is and how varied. This place started out very much like Australia. Let's just take all the criminals from England to Australia and dump them off. And now look at Australia. It's a beautiful place. It has grown up. The criminals have become civilized. Same story with Earth. Same story. People change and grow over time, especially when you're talking millions of years. The hope now is that we will not use our nuclear weapons to destroy plasma layers and dimensions, that totally disrupt other dimensions of existence, and that we will make this step into joining that, it's called different names: Alliance, Confederation, the Galactic Council, the Galactic Federation. There's just different people use different names, but it's all the same thing. And it all involves other races of being.
You talk often a lot about reincarnation, right? That and
Yeah,
when you learn about intuition and you develop a lot, that you can at some point access your past, future, simultaneous
yeah,
incarnations for information.
right.
So, are there people right now who are incarnated? There's a little mosquito running around. Go away. Is there people right now? It's like it's going in my face. My move.
Yeah.
Is there people right now who are incarnated who could have been around that far back in our history? In other words, do people right now of this current civilization, although we reincarnate perhaps 20, 30,000 years, is it possible to have had in our soul experience that much history? Because 10 million years is, well, it seems like a lot to us here.
Yeah.
Or are we just a new, whoever's on the planet right now is more a new soul group civilization? Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
So 10 million years is a drop in the bucket. It's more like 25 million years that we go back. Um, so yes, there are some beings here. Okay, so we here on Earth. The Earth has changed position in the solar system. That creates disruption. Um, Other planets have changed position. We've been hit by very large meteors or asteroids in the past more than once. Um, the sun does its thing, so disaster happens. The bottom line is there are disasters that happen, and the population that exists at that time sometimes gets pretty much wiped out. Only a few people are left. Sometimes there's a lot left, enough to restart quite a bit. And and here we are. Um, what we what we continue to do here is to provide on planet Earth, I'll use the word bodies, for consciousnesses to take up residence in, to learn some of the basics of a reality system. That's what a 3D reality system is for. You create it, it stays. It's there and you live with it. And so what you learn, the bottom line is you learn to that what you create is what you're going to live with. Or my mother used to say, if you make your bed such and such a way, that's what you're going to lay in. Um, you know, those kinds of statements they capsulize the whole reality. I did not realize that when I was young, but we have quite a history here. The evolution, let me go big picture for just a moment. This cosmos that we have and this galaxy that we have um, gives birth to other universes and other galaxies. When I don't want to get too much into physics, but and it's not understood, or this isn't talked about very much in the world of physics that we have here on planet Earth at this time. But from my experience and observation, because we have pictures that go back of this operation, of this dividing, the galaxy divides, the galaxy, or it funnels itself into a new universe and thereby renews itself, and so on and so on. There's all kinds of galaxies merge, and then there's a bit of chaos and all sorts of things happen. There's more than one universe. It's way too complex to be worried about. Don't, I tell people, just know that there's other universes that are being created, and that happens slowly. The whole thing has been here for an unknowable amount of time. And so when we talk about a history of 25 million years, that's a drop in the bucket. So let me repeat then, if you have a place that is a three-dimensional universe or a three-dimensional world like Earth, and you have life forms like bodies that we have here that you can put a consciousness into. I mean, it'll come with a basic consciousness, but then somebody or something takes up residence in that body and brings their entire history with them. And yes, that happens. Sometimes people come in for just one job. Sometimes people come in like myself and say, before I immerse myself in this place, let me insert myself into a whole bunch of places all at one time so that I have the benefit of all of those experiences feeding into a particular focal point at once. Other people come back again and again because it's a wonderful place, because the sensory delights here are extraordinary. You don't have this level of sensory beauty, of the visual stuff, the auditory stuff, the tastes, the smells, the movements that that are possible, that you can engage in, whether you're talking about dancing or building a house or jumping off a bridge on a bungee cord or sailing, across the ocean, and you're just working those sails, or whatever the sensory movements are. They're astounding. The number of options here are astounding. The place is considered, this particular earth is considered something of a vacation spot, a getaway spot, by some other races of beings, including the Pleiadians. And there have been also, I'm going to say, people who come here, who've been here 25 million years ago, went through some stuff, maybe had a series of lives here, and have graduated to other places, but will return here just because they are supporting the leap in consciousness that they've already made elsewhere. So to talk about reincarnation in terms of one form of reincarnation is probably not a big enough picture of the kinds of reincarnation that are possible. Absolutely, reincarnation occurs. We look at it from a very small perspective here, but there's actually a much bigger, much broader, much richer and older history of reincarnations, plural, on this planet for a whole variety of reasons, not the least of which is the sensory richness of this place. This is where people come to get DNA and patterns that they want to implement on other planets. We're coming into a period of time now over the next decade when we're going to slowly, next 2 decades, we're going to be slowly introduced to some of those other races from other places. And that will gradually, I think, maybe with some shock, end up having to understand that there's a lot of holes in our history. There's a lot of stories that are just made up, or they're from one point of view. Most of the history that we have, it really comes out of the Bible. And the Bible is really just the history of the Jewish people, of the Hebrew people. And that's it. Everybody else and all the rest are sort of left out. And that is such a tiny, tiny piece of our history. It's just one group. And I think over this next 2 or 3 decades, we're going to end up going, wow, oh my, there's a lot of other beings, and they have pieces of our history that we never dreamed of.
Also our own history, because when you talk about this, the idea of reincarnation here, but then we could have actually done the same thing in other systems and then
That's
come back.
right. And
it's
we
also
do.
our own history that expands the idea of who we are, of what I
Yes.
am as a human being. Well,
An earthling.
exactly, an earthling at this time. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
also very,
Right.
it creates a lot of, not only for the races that are out, but for me to think that I'm much more than I think I am.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really true. And we are much more, and we're much more welcome than we have ever thought. Welcome to join other races. Some people don't care. They don't care. It doesn't bother them. They're not interested in the history of the races. It doesn't affect them until they come face to face with one of the other beings, until they discover that new technology has come from some of those other races. And now they don't have, quote, a job anymore because it's being done by machine, or it's being done by frequency generators, or etc. Frequency chambers, manifestation chambers, etc. Those are all coming. They're not too far in our future. And so we have to think about, who are we and what do we want out of life? And people generally who are on the side of life want to be productive. And what they want is to produce something that nurtures life. They might not put it in that. They might say, I want some creative work to do. I want some good work to do. And they might, because they're still attaching work to an income. The evolution of a civilization is typically going to be away from money as we know it now, and into everybody has what they need. Well, when everybody has what they need, then what do you do all day? Twiddle your thumbs? You have to have something that you love doing and that you love to produce. And I'm going to say this is something that I know I haven't said before, but typically when a civilization or group of people comes to that point where they have everything they need, the population drops. And that has just been an observation that has, that's just understood. Why does the population drop? I'm not sure I even understand why, but I have some understandings that when the population has everything they need and you don't know what you love to do, you don't go back to that place. You go someplace where you can still develop what is the thing you love to work with. Do you love to grow things? Like, let's use me for an example. I'm here because I want to be, this is like a graduation exercise for me that allows me to be invited to help, to be part of teams that go around the cosmos and seed life. That is my passion. So I know what I want. I want to go around and seed life. I want to nurture life. I want to help populations nurture their own lives and evolve to the point where they know themselves. What is it they love to do? And when you get to the point that you are a pretty evolved being and you can change your state, so you're past fourth dimension and you can change state of being from kind of a physical being to an energy being, a being of light who can move anywhere in the cosmos. Along the way, you develop a set of skills of what is it you like to generate. You practice generating yourself, but then there are other things. Do you want to feed people? Do you want to educate people? Do you want to build equipment? Do you want to work on one of the big ships? Now there's a job for you. The big ships that hold, thousands and thousands of people, and they're not crowded. And there's a sense of safety and security because they're not stuck on a planet where it rains too much or snows too much or earthquakes too much or hurricanes too much or has micronovas or. Um, what about that, or an engineer that makes some piece of that big ship work? Wow. Or you want to build a transport system that covers your entire planet, that takes into account whatever conditions you have to deal with on your planet, et cetera, et cetera. You'll have a passion.
So right now, let's say a future like I would like to see. So we start to know that there's other source of energy, so to speak. So we don't need to rely on gas or
Right.
electricity. We can all have our own electricity. We start to become more self-sustaining with food. We eat less.
Yeah,
We don't really need money anymore. So therefore, communities are built. We start to work together. We were taught to not really know what we want. So, in other words, you saying that the progression towards this kind of life where people will start to not know what their passions are makes that they will just leave the planet and not continue the multiplication. Is that what you're saying?
that's
Because we're
right.
kind of very unhappy because we don't know what we want and we don't know what to do. So let's just get out of here. Is that
Yeah, it kind of, yeah. So when the population, when everybody is taken care of, you would think that people would say, oh, let's have a lot of people, everybody's taken care of, we can all enjoy this. Oddly, the exact opposite happens. When everybody is well taken care of, that's the point at which the population begins to come together to say, what can we do? What could you create? What could you produce? What could you contribute? Et cetera, et cetera. And that becomes the focus. And that's when you can build, some civilizations will have a dozen big ships, motherships, I guess would be what we call them here. They are big. They are humongous. Um, and they're multi-layered and they're sophisticated beyond belief. So you don't need a huge population on board those ships, but you have everything. You have everything that you need. And the one thing that you get when you start to work together is, let's go visit the neighbors. That kind of thinking is what happens. Um, and so it's a different, the artificial way of reducing population is very, very destructive. And it's very disheartening. And it's very uh, discouraging in terms of developmental stages. And so I would say at this point in time, it's almost counterintuitive to say if everybody is taken care of, we're not going to have unlimited population. What you have is the development of each individual past the need to produce more bodies. Instead, they want to contribute something else. Now, that doesn't mean that no new bodies get produced, because people do produce, and they produce very, very specifically. The Chinese had this one child rule for a long time, and they lifted that rule just recently, I think, because they were concerned about their demographics. There aren't enough women for their men. And that's, so there's probably going to be some sort of population bump similar to the, what do you call it, the baby boomers among the Chinese. And so 20 years from now, maybe we'll call them the Chinese boomers or something like that. But that on this planet, at this point in time, there's not very many pleasures. Sex is one of the pleasures. And so people have sex and they have babies, and then they don't take care of the babies. And the children are not raised in a way that brings out their genius or their magnificence. And what, and then all of the failings of the parents get passed on to the kids, and the kids then struggle to try to heal themselves. And so it's very slow evolutionary process. But when you have everybody taken care of, the evolutionary process speeds up dramatically. Population drops, the people come together, and they end up saying, you know, let's give ourselves something interesting to do. Let's give ourselves a magnificent challenge. And that's when you get the kind of engineering and technology in which you build the big ships that allow the whole population to leave.
So the idea that when you have, when your needs are taken care of, and I think there's probably an evolutionary time for this to happen, because right now, at this moment, let's say 10 years from now, if everybody got their needs met, I think most people have never really done or even know what they want.
That's right. We're not educated to develop that spark within each child. We're missing the genius of millions, billions of people. Like,
so what do we do with that? So how do we?
what we typically do is have a war and wipe out all the ones at the low level. The people that go into the army are the people who don't have anything else to do. They don't have any options. They don't have any pathways or doorways open. That is so destructive, and it's so discouraging. So the population will drop naturally and slowly if everybody's taken care of. The reason why people don't get taken care of is because some people think that they are better than others. They think that they're more deserving than others. They think that these people over here are there to serve them. And they work that, and that's the whole basis of greed and hierarchy and control and taxation and all of that. Maybe the thing that we need to ask is not what do you want, it's what gift do you have to give? What is your gift, and what do you have to do to develop that gift? Do you have to read some more? Do you have to go to school? Do you have to give yourself permission? Do you have to make new friends? Do you have to move to a different part of the country, experience a different culture? What do you need to do in order to figure out or give that gift? If that gift is making pies, then you need to be somewhere where people need pies to eat. If that gift is building aircraft, then, what is the gift? It's almost always going to be what you love to do and would do even if you weren't getting paid for it. And that's, I talk about that now and then. That passion, that thing that you would love to do or that you do naturally. Maybe it's organizing skating parties in the winter or swimming parties in the summer or taking care of children because other people are going to work or if that's your gift, then by gosh, do it. Maybe it's taking care of dogs while people go on vacation. Whatever it is, figure out a way to do that and to take care of yourself in doing that. If everybody did that, it would be a different world. If everybody was doing what they love to do and everybody was taken care of, we would evolve just boom, boom, boom. It'd be faster than we could maybe even adjust to. And when you make that kind of commitment to give your gift, that's when you begin to get, I'll call it, I was going to say meddling. Meddling is not the right term, the right word. You get help from unseen quarters by those who are in the background cheerleading, saying, go, yes, thank God. And who will open little doors and give you little insights, etc. Nobody's going to feed you insights if you're going down a path of selfishness or greed or laziness. It just isn't going to happen.